In this video, we will discuss about tumor microenvironment or some of the major mechanisms that are altered during this tumor microenvironment. So the green in the figure, the arrow that is shown by blue color are the uh, anti-tumor response that are generated by the immune cells, and the arrows that are in the red colors uh, are the response generated by tumor cells to prevent those anti-tumor response by the immune cells. So we will cover how these immune cells will try to act against these tumor cells, and how the tumor cells will counteract those immune response. So let us start with the NK cells. The NK cells will generate anti-tumor response through this perforin and granzyme, and we have covered the role of granzyme is that when the granzyme enters the tumor cells, it will generate a intrinsic apoptosis response that will lead to the that will trigger the programmed cell death, that will lead to the death of the tumor cells. So NK cells will act through that way, and simultaneously there is B cells is another kind of immune cells, and it will generate the antibody against the specific antigen of the tumors. And these B cells, after generating the antibody, it will simultaneously it will also activate the T cells, so that the T cells can interact with this uh, tumor cells through this major histocompatibility complex interaction, and then triggers this cell death on triggers the cell death program within these tumor cells. And so this is how some of the major response of the immune cells by which they handles the tumor cells. Now we will discuss how these tumor cells will try to uh, evade themselves from the immune response. So one of the major way by which it evade itself from the immune response is through this cancer associated fibroblast or extracellular matrix. So these tumor cells will interact with the neighboring cells to generate a tumor microenvironment, or we can say this cancer fibroblast. Other term is also known as stroma. It will generate a stroma formation, and this stroma will act as a physical barrier that will prevent these dendritic cells and other immune cells to detect this to interact with the antigen on the tumor cells. So in this way, these dendritic cells will not be able to interact with the tumor cells, and simultaneously what dendritic cells will do is dendritic cells will try to reduce this M2 macrophages response, because dendritic cells will trigger this M2 macrophage response, and as these dendritic cells will not be able to interact detect these tumor cells, it will not trigger the activation of these macrophages, and thereby what it does is this NK cell response will finally be get reduced, will finally be get inhibited, because these things are in a cascade effect. That is, dendritic cells will trigger M2 macrophage and it will trigger NK cells. So when there is a extracellular matrix formation occurs, then these dendritic cells will not be able to detect the tumor cells, and uh, simultaneously the further immune response will get weakens down. So this is one of the way by which tumor cells will prevent itself from the immune response. The other way is by this checkpoint inhibitor. So this tumor cells has this PDL1 and PDI receptors antigens, so it can interact with this immune cells such as CTL cells, and signals these CTL cells to for deactivation by interacting through this PDL1 and PDI antigen receptors. And this is in order to prevent such kind of inhibition, there is a therapy that has been used, that is checkpoint inhibitor checkpoint therapy, where this PDL1 and PDI receptors on the immune cells will be blocked, so that these receptors will not be able to interact with the tumor cells, and the inhibition of immune cells will not occur. And however, that therapy is not yet been efficiently developed, as there are many side effects that has been observed. So how these tumor cells work is how these tumor cells work in this case is that they inhibit the immune cells, or they signals the immune cells for deactivation, and the CTL cells will deactivate this T cells through this MDSC and BMDC pathway, and also through this CTLA4 receptors that will inhibit the T cells activation, and thereby this immune response through these B cells and T cells will also get weakens out. T cells will also get weakens out, and for these B cells, in order to inhibit the B cells, the tumor cells will generate these B regulatory cells. And these B regulatory cells will inhibit the B cells production of B cells, and thereby the antibody production against the tumor cells will also get inhibited. So this is just a brief overview or some of the main points of the tumor microenvironment, how this tumor microenvironment uh, trying to combat or prevent itself from the immune response. If you need to understand more about this tumor microenvironment in detail, you can go through the reference that has been provided in the description. That's all for this video. Thank you for your time.